The text renews the call on governments to uphold their responsibility to provide protection and assistance to IDPs and refugees, critically define durable solutions, and further strengthen international response efforts. It also draws our attention to the importance of supporting communities that host IDPs and refugees. The Omnibus Draft Resolution affirms that international humanitarian law provides for the protection of civilians in all armed conflicts, international and non-international. We regret that Syria broke silence after the extensive, inclusive, and transparent negotiations had ended, negotiations in which its delegation participated. Syria's last-minute obstructionism is inconsistent with the spirit of open debate and compromise, which is a long-standing part of this organ's working method. At a time when Syria has already lost its credibility by waging a campaign that includes sieges, the blocking of humanitarian aid, the indiscriminate bombardment of civilian areas, and the use of barrel bombs.
We welcome the adoption of the draft resolution in that regard later today. The United States looks forward to working with the United Nations and member states in 2017 to further improve humanitarian planning and assistance and to work tirelessly to uphold international humanitarian law in all armed conflicts. As we reflect on the immense need for financial support online on the Global Humanitarian Appeal for 2017. We urge all member states to contribute generously to United Nations humanitarian appeals and agencies, as well as to other key international humanitarian organizations. We thank General Secretary General Ban Ki-moon for his extraordinary leadership on humanitarian affairs during his tenure, and we will look forward to supporting Antonio Guterres as he opens a new chapter in the United Nations history of offering hope, protection, and assistance to those in need.
Mr. Valery Almeida, I have the honor to speak on behalf of the European Union and its member states. The candidate country is Turkey, the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia, and Albania, the country of the stabilization and association process, and potential candidate of Bosnia and Herzegovina, as well as Ukraine, Republic of Moldova, and Georgia, align themselves with statements today. The scale of human suffering is greater than at times since the United Nations was founded. Currently, 130 million people are dependent of humanitarian assistance, of the protection and survive from the conflict and disasters. More than 65 million people have been displaced and they flee violence of persecution, the highest number since the Second World War. The half of displaced are children. Today, armed conflicts are tearing apart vast parts of the world. Millions of people are exposed to violence and live with less that acquire water, food, shelter, and health services.
Conflicts are also leading cause of hunger, undermining food security in multiple ways and creating access problems for governments and humanitarian agencies to reach those most in need. As a consequence, the world is suffering one of its largest humanitarian crises since 1945, with millions of people facing the threat of starvation and famine. The challenges encountered by the humanitarian community today are enormous. International humanitarian law is increasingly disregarded by parties to conflicts. Hospitals are being attacked, patients, doctors, nurses, and humanitarian workers targeted, often killed. Ordinary people are being trapped. Constant care is not being taken to protect the civilian population. The consequences are devastating.
The European Union and its member states welcome the powerful vision set out in the Secretary General's Agenda for Humanity, which shown like progress and deliver concrete results in a number of key areas. We affirm our commitment to the humanitarian principles of humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and independence, and to preventing the politicization and instrumentalization of humanitarian aid. Humanitarian actions cannot substitute the political solutions. Respect for the international humanitarian law, including safeguarding humanitarian access and combating impunity for populations, shall top the international agenda. Protecting civilians and its workers is a priority today more than even before. The entire international community needs to speak out and systematically condemn violations of international humanitarian law. Serious violations of international humanitarian law cause intolerable human suffering and aggravate humanitarian crisis.
We must continue our efforts to ensure that aid is more effective and more accountable with respect to the people that is intended to serve. The EU and its member states reiterate the continued commitment to putting people at the center of their humanitarian action. We must work together to ensure that the humanitarian protection agenda and related action genuinely deliver to those most vulnerable and most in need. Women, children, other persons, and people with disabilities are disproportionately vulnerable to the effects of disasters and conflicts. Humanitarian operators must take into account their specific needs and capacities and involve them throughout the response cycle. Also, humanitarian aid and the humanitarian system overall must become much more effective through the improvements by all actors, including donors and operators. That is not about saving money, but about saving lives with dignity and being more effective.
Donors should not simply give more, but give better, so great flexibility, providing increased predictability and reducing as much as possible the administrative barriers. At the same time, aid organizations should reciprocate with great transparency and cost consciousness by employing the best and most efficient aid modalities and by recognizing the comparative advantage of local, national, and international implementing organizations for the delivery of services. There must be coherence and cooperation among humanitarian and development programming and financing in accordance with the respective mandates, aiming common results in reducing need and vulnerability over multiple years and based on a common understanding of the context of each actor, operational strength, and planning and programming processes. Last but not least, we need to continue working to reduce humanitarian needs. The best way to deal with growing humanitarian needs is to address the root causes.
At the end of 2015, a total of 65.3 million people were displaced as a result of violence, conflict, or persecution, compared with 59.5 million just 12 more yearly. In that context, humanitarian assistance that allows us to address basic needs and protection, including mitigating risks associated with human trafficking, has never been more important. Indeed, as the Syrian regime continues to prevent thousands of the citizens from accessing humanitarian assistance, we are reminded of the limitation of our efforts in the absence of respect for international humanitarian law. The United States welcomed the adoption later today of the Omnibus Humanitarian Draft Resolution, as well as the draft resolution on the safety and the security of the United Nations personnel, and the draft resolution on natural disasters, and is placed to co-sponsor them. The Omnibus text represents a possible step forward by strengthening the humanitarian community's ability to better address the humanitarian assistance needs more than 100 million people around the globe.
When principled humanitarian action is respected by all parties to a conflict, humanitarian workers are the most dangerous and volatile treaties of war. When international humanitarian law and principled humanitarian action are not respected, then people are abandoned. The notion of protection loses meaning and humanity is fluid. The United States and its member states will continue to advocate strongly and consistently for respect for international law, including international humanitarian law, refugee law, and international human rights law. All parties to armed conflicts must comply with international humanitarian law, including the principles of distinction, proportionality, and precaution, as also reflected in customary international law. And in case of serious violations of international humanitarian law, accountability is of the greatest importance. Full, prompt, impartial, and effective investigations are needed, including through use of the International Criminal Court as the court of last resort.
the determination of many member states to turn words into action, including the commitments made at the World Humanitarian Summit. The Omnibus Draft Resolution calls on the United Nations to improve humanitarian coordination through the development of prioritized humanitarian response plans based on its assessments. It calls for increased transparency, the reduction of duplication in the system, and the strengthening of partnerships with national and local responders. It also advanced new ways of working through important language about reducing the humanitarian and development silos, and, for the first time, it stressed the importance of United Nations efforts to combat sexual exploitation and abuse committed by aid workers. I would like to draw attention to the Omnibus Draft Resolutions focused on the needs of internally displaced persons, IDPs, who represent over 2/3 of those forcibly displaced worldwide.
The world today spends around $25 billion to provide life-saving assistance to millions of people devastated by wars and natural disasters. While this amount is 12 times greater than 15 years ago, never before has generosity been so insufficient. Over the past few years, conflicts and natural disasters have led to fast-growing numbers of people in need, and the funding gap for humanitarian action amounts to an estimated 15 billion. The European Union and its member states are committed to assuming their part of the shared responsibility of the international community to save lives, alleviate suffering, and preserve human dignity. In recent months, states members of the United Nations have made great progress in Sendai, Addis Ababa, New York, Paris, and Istanbul, where the first ever World Humanitarian Summit was held. Important commitments were made by all relevant stakeholders. Now is the time to turn talk into action and to implement those commitments.